All right, this is my review of Acolyte Season 1. So, what did I think about the series overall? I have to say, I am a bit mixed. If I had to sum it up, I would say that I really liked the beginning of the series, and then I actually liked the end of the series as well. I just thought that along the way, it was a pretty rocky journey. There were just multiple places where I thought things were kind of silly, or where I thought that character motivations kind of came up out of nowhere. Just a couple of examples. Take the second to last episode, which is the second flashback episode, which why do we have two flashback episodes covering basically the same thing? But anyway, in that second flashback episode, we find out that a lot of the impetus for these very pivotal moments that are shaping the entire season come down to motivations of two characters, which I think come up a little bit suddenly and don't really make a lot of sense. The first is Saul wanting a Padawan so much out of nowhere and in a bit of a creepy fashion, which is motivating his desire to protect Osha, to take Osha with him. I guess we don't know what Saul was like before that episode because the show doesn't really cover those parts of the timeline, but it just seems kind of random. And I wish they would have at least explained the motivation. Like, I could see it if he had his own daughter that died or his own family member that died. But yeah, it's like, why does he care so much about this girl that he's never seen? So that's one. And then the other is, I'm forgetting the name of the character, but it's the one younger Padawan Jedi that's on this trip. He really wants to go home to Coruscant, and they don't really explain why. And it doesn't really make any sense because they haven't been on Brendok for very long. But he really wants to go home. And that ends up motivating some of his actions during the episode, which then leads to that entire episode's confrontation where Saul kills one of the mothers, and it's kind of the narrative impetus for almost all of the plot of the entire season. And at the end of the day, there's just not, I don't think, enough foundation for some of those choices. But yeah, then as I said, I really liked where the season started, and then I really liked where the season ended. Like, I thought that the last episode, where some of the characters ended, was a really nice change from where they started at the beginning of the season. So for instance, I do like the concept of the twins and the fact that one starts out good and the other starts out evil, and that they switch places by the end. I like the notion of Osha being converted to the dark side, and then also the way they execute it with, like, for instance, showing her blue lightsaber turning to red. I thought that was pretty awesome. And I like the notion that maybe she had all this pent-up anger all along, which Saul and the Jedi could not really help her get rid of, and that it's eventually coming out at the end and being provoked by Chimere and leading her to being part of the dark side, and that she's been harboring resentment for her sister all this time. I love how all that ended. I just didn't think that what happens throughout the season really showed that transformation happening in a compelling way. So overall, this is one of those shows where it feels like there's a lot of good story there. And if it had been cut and edited in a different way, like, maybe it would have been better. Like, the other big failure of the season is that there's this whole mystery the entire way of what did those four Jedi do in Brendok that was so bad? And they carry it through episode after episode. And I swear, there's probably like 4 or 5 times where Saul is like, yeah, I'm about to tell you what actually happened on Brendok. But by the time we get to it in the second to last episode, I don't think it was that shocking what actually happened. I don't think it was that compelling. And they built up all this mystery around it where I almost think it would have been better if they had just started the season out revealing what happened on Brendok and the genesis of all these motivations for the characters, which would have then carried throughout the rest of the season. But what we got instead was just a season where characters were doing things for reasons that didn't really make sense all along, and you're building up this mystery that at the end of the day just isn't super compelling. The other thing I will say about this entire season is that the action was amazing. Like, that was probably my favorite part of the entire season. Multiple fight scenes that were just very well choreographed, very unique, and bringing something different that we haven't necessarily seen in other movies and TV shows in this universe. I even thought that the chase scene in the last episode of the 2 ships flying through the rings of that planet, that was just super visually interesting and different. And so a lot of times throughout the season, I did find myself wondering, okay, it feels like they hired top-notch fight choreographers and top-notch people that could direct action. And then it feels like someone had a really compelling idea for an overall story arc and characters and where they start the season and where they end the season. Then it just seems like something happened in the story execution. Either maybe it wasn't that well thought out from the beginning of how you get from point A to B, or what I suspect might have happened could be that there was an original vision that was really good, but then executives came in and said like, oh, let's actually rearrange it this way. Maybe at some point along the way they decided like, oh, we really need a second season, so let's chop it up in this different way. Let's add some mystery box element, even if it's not really necessary. So I don't know what happened. I did at least enjoy sitting down to watch it every week. And this is one of those situations where I do appreciate the show anyway, not only because of all the hard work I'm sure the people put in, but frankly, even if it's a bad show, it's kind of fun because then I get to watch all these videos and listen to all these reviews about people talking about how bad they thought it was. So I would say that even though the show wasn't singing to my heart the entire season, I still appreciated it. And who am I kidding? I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so if they do put out a season 2, I'm definitely going to watch it. All right, that'll do it for this video. If you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Peace.